What is going on?
And when you find your passion, it ignites you as a person. You just feel awesome.
We had to do a little bank run to get more quarters because laundry. All right, let's just you. So today is Friday.
It's Friday.
We are going to be doing some training. So today and tomorrow are going to be the last hard training days. So I'll take you into the gym, show you a little bit. We're going to be doing Jiu-Jitsu today. So we are gonna go do some laundry, wash some gis, wash some spats, and I will see you when it is time for Jiu-Jitsu, huh? It's time for Jiu-Jitsu. All right, see you in a few. Girls just jamming out. We are about ready to head over to start training. This is my outfit of the day. This is what happens when you train a lot and you don't give a fuck anymore. We are heading into the gym right now. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Yes, it's Friday. So don't trip over anything. So yeah, we're gonna get in some rolls, some no-gi rolls. So we'll see what happens. We're gonna do a little picture-in-picture action right now so I can give you the lowdown on what goes on during a class. So basically what you're seeing here is what happens is at the beginning of class you do a warm-up, and then the professor or the owner or your instructor, your sensei, whatever, different schools have different names, but basically we'll show you one technique and then you pair off and you practice reps for that one technique. So here you can see the instruction has already been given, and this clip is showing me and my partner each performing the move that was previously taught. So you can see we usually do 2 and 2, or 3 and 3, whatever you and your partner decide on. So I'll do 3 reps, he'll do 3 reps, and then you'll continue doing that until the instructor is like, all right, let's move on and show the next technique. Here it's really important, I find, to get as many reps in as possible. Some people, you see them do the rep like a couple times, like a couple reps, and they'll sit there and start talking. I personally, I'm like, all right, like it's almost like, you know, the intensity of wrestlers. Like I love that intensity when it comes to drilling stuff. I mean, they are just like rep, 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 rep. And you know you're getting enough reps in when you're like sweaty just after doing the reps. So here is a type of triangle. So I'm doing a little Kimura action, an Americana action with the triangle, which is nice just because, you know, if one doesn't work, just in case while they're on their way of getting choked out, you might as well break a limb while you're at it, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's also really important too when you're training with a partner to go really slow, especially on the joint locks. It's not good to put on a Kimura or an arm bar or an Americana very quickly, because those joints are like super sensitive, and some people don't have the range of motion. Like some people have issues with their joints. They may have had, you know, a shoulder that previously got dislocated, or maybe they're coming back from an armbar injury from a competition. So it's really good to put these things on slowly. That way you get to preserve your partner, because if you fuck up your partner, like that's, you're not gonna have anybody to train with if you just mess up everybody at your gym. So yeah. And you can see, you know, of course the feedback is the tap. So you basically let your partner know if it's on by either physically tapping your hand, or you can tap your foot, or you can verbally tap, because sometimes nothing is available except your voice to tap. All right, now we finished our first technique, which was an inverted triangle, and now Jimmy, who is in the black, typically when you have a class, the instructor will pick somebody from the group to help them demonstrate the technique. So here he has chosen Carson, and they are about to perform a technique, and he's about to show the class how to do the technique, how to give details on what's important in order for this to be successful when you're live rolling, because I can hit every move when I'm drilling, but when you try to hit it live, that's a whole nother story, a whole other story. So let me put the sound on right now. That way you can hear some tidbits on how to do this technique. So this technique that Jimmy is showing is how to escape being on the bottom of side control. And especially as a beginner, this is a huge technique to know how to do. This is like the meat and potatoes because how are you going to perform an armbar or any of the other cool techniques or submissions if you can't get out of a shitty position, which when you first start, you will be in a shitty position a great majority of the time. So let me stop talking and let Jimmy start talking.
Sure, I get here and I start to come up and I let go of this. You can guillotine me or you can just cross face me here. So now I'm just eating across this. I'm trying to get to my knees, cross face. Yeah, like, look, I'm like eating this cross face. So it can make me get into my knees really hard. You want to control here all the time. So he tries to guillotine me. I can't. Or if I can't get the grip, I'm here like this. Try to guillotine me. Can't. So you gotta defend your neck when you come up to your knees. Got it? Alright guys, I'm through 1, 2, 3.
All right, so now it's time for us to do the technique. I find when you are with a partner and you are performing a technique, it is important at the beginning to not be a floppy fish. Like sometimes when you practice a technique with somebody, they are just like a limp noodle, and that's not really accurate. I mean, you can't do a technique on a structure that has no structure. You know what I'm saying? So you need to make sure that you are giving your partner a body that they can work with. And at the same time, it's good not to offer 100% resistance or a high level of resistance, or else they're not going to be able to do the technique. What I find too is some schools, what they'll do is during the class, when you are being taught a technique, they'll have a period of time when they're like, all right, well, now we're going to do this move positionally. And during that time, I like to ask my partner, like, hey, how much resistance do you want? Do you want like 20%? Do you want 50%? Do you want 80%? Because it's really good to practice these moves when you have incremental resistance. That way you can figure out what you're doing wrong in that moment. Because when you take it live and you start rolling, things are happening so fast, and it's not really fair to your partner every time that you mess up to be like, hey, wait a minute, what happened there? Can we rewind it? So this, when you're drilling, especially when you start to add resistance, is super beneficial because you can figure out what's about to break you can figure out what is breaking in that moment and fix it. Because if you are drilling a technique and you're offering zero resistance, you're not going to understand what possibly could go wrong. So what I like to do is at the beginning, hardly any resistance, that way the person can do it. And then as we progress the reps, offer, the choice to have an increase in resistance or ask for an increase in resistance. That way you can figure out where you would go wrong when you do take this, move to live rolling. Basically, yeah. And some schools are different. Some schools will teach the technique. You'll learn a couple of techniques, and then after you'll do positional rolling, where you start in the position of the technique that was shown. So in this case, you'll start with one person on the top of side control, the other person on the bottom of side control, and then go from there. And anytime somebody escapes or there's a change in position, you reset. In other schools, you will have class, and then after will be an open mat where there's rolling. So then it's really up to you to say to your partner, hey, do you want to drill this or hey, can we start from this position? That way you can work the class technique when you roll. And it's always good too, because I mean, every class usually schools have a syllabus, and every class, every day is going to have like a different technique. And then, you know, the rotation will start where you'll start repeating the techniques and re-going through the syllabus. And I find in order for every technique to get its fair shake, to try to land the technique during rolling. In any case, my advice is a lot of the times if you're coming up, right, if you're a white belt, you know, takedowns are kind of like high risk in terms of breaking somebody's knee, for example, to trying to do a judo throw. But as you get more experience, what's really good is to try to start standing, because what fight have you ever seen in your life starts on your butt? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you're like meditating and you get into a fight, you know, unless you're like at a monastery, like what? You're never gonna start on your butt. Like, why would you ever do that? Like, it's just so funny to me to like, so my advice is to also try to start from standing. That way you get in some reps for a takedown, because if you can't get to the ground, how are you going to do your jiu-jitsu? Like, all right, see ya. All right, so we are done for tonight. I didn't really get to roll too much. I had a knee injury from last night, but we got to do some reps, which is better than nothing. And tomorrow's gonna be like pretty hard training, pretty hard rounds. So yeah, not too bad for a Friday night. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire.